Hey everyone, so this is just a short video to talk about the 4 phases of the online course. This comes from a book that I highly recommend. Got it right here. You can see that I'm not faking it. I actually did look and read this book, The Online Teaching Survival Guide. And one of the things I really like about this book, besides it having a lot of practical information, is that it's very theory-based. So it balances what I appreciate and what I'm trying to build into this course, balance between the theory and then building into the practical. What it does is that it breaks down the online course into 4 different phases. Course beginnings, early middle, late middle, and closing weeks. And we're going to just touch on each one of these really briefly, but overall, one of the things that this really helps to do is to help us shift the idea of the online teacher from this sage on the stage, the one that has to bring all the content, to the one that becomes more of a facilitator or really a mentor. And within that mentoring relationship, if you've ever been in one before, some of it is, a lot of it actually is about reading where the student is at that stage of development and helping the student move on to the next stage. Interacting, guiding appropriately, figuring out what needs to happen next. And so with that, let's take a look at these 4 different phases of the online course. Step 1 is so important, starting off on the right foot. This is where you're going to establish that trust. You're promoting that initial social presence. Some of the things in this course that we did in terms of a lot of sharing and discussion posts about experiences, making those connections, getting acquainted with the learner's background. I did this partly through a survey to be able to understand where people were at. Personal learning goals. Really the ideal here when you're starting off is to make sure that everybody is showing up, that people are really coming into the course and they're integrating into the course, and at the same time as they're integrating that you're trying to make some of your expectations clear as a teacher. You're supporting them, but also trying to draw them into really what it means to be a community of learners. Now in the next stage of the course, this early middle stage is really a crucial point where you need to keep the ball rolling. You've established that initial rapport, and you need to start watering, you need to start tending, and it could be a turning point for some students. That turning point where they try to figure out, is this really worth it for me? Am I going to be able to make it in this course or even in this degree? Am I going to be able to do it? So this is where it's important, just like with that first stage of plants, where it's important to continue that strong teaching presence, guiding through the learning, the core learning concepts of the class, spiraling around to ideas and content, developing that supporting community a little bit more, and then starting to test some ideas a little bit more and stretching people, but probably not too much. At this early middle. It's still a time of developing that foundation and to cover a lot of content probably, and making sure that people really understand what's going on before really going into deep dives. Now stage 3, this late middle period is kind of fun because it means that you can start to let go of a teacher, and this sometimes for a teacher is a difficult thing to do, but once your processes are well established, your community hopefully is working, the faculty should really shift time from kind of the larger group to start connecting individually more directly with students in terms of teaching presence, or if it's a huge class, into that smaller group. Supporting more the learners as leaders, experiences. You can still be reviewing things, start to mentor projects rather than the kind of more direct content building, and starting that idea of providing deeper feedback on assignments. You're probably not going to scare people away at this point. They're committed into the class, and so you can start to take some of those deeper dives and give more solid, stronger feedback to the students. And then the stage 4 is those closing weeks where you start to prune, reflect, you start to wrap up, come back around maybe to those main ideas that you were trying to accomplish over the weeks, start to summarize some of the larger themes that you were trying to cover and objectives that you're trying to reach. You want to continue a strong cognitive and teaching presence throughout the end of the course. But now you are trying to clarify, you're trying to wrap up, you're giving really direct, specific feedback that pretty much you're focusing on those final objectives, those final assessments, those big feedback assignments, and so on that you're going to use to wrap up the course. So this was just a little summary of these 4 different stages or phases of the online course from this book that I really appreciate. I hope it's helpful. You will see down below a PDF of the summary from one of the first chapters of this book that just kind of covers some of the things that I talked about. I focused on the teaching aspects of this because we're in the week with the teaching presence, but there's some other aspects in terms of these weeks too of what to expect from the students and so on. So look into the reading, take a look, see what you think, and I'd love to hear back from you. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, and let's continue to grow these classes and develop a strong teaching presence in our online classes.